Record. Okay, it's recording. Good. It's all over the place. Okay. All right. So when we're talking about Instagram and how we're going to move forward, we got a bunch of things to talk about. We're going to talk about how the social medias work, Facebook and Instagram, Meta, some statistics, how they work in Alberta and Canada, how the app works, how the algorithm works, why it's important, target markets, some theories on how they work. And so we're going to do some activities. John should have sent all of you some activities that will correspond to different places in the video. I would encourage you to do them as we talk about them, but we might not have time to actually do them through the presentation today, but I'm going to explain how to do them so you can do them in your own time. After that, we're going to talk about competition. I call some theories called the ABCs of competition, activity, why it's important to learn about your competition, how to work backwards through your posts and through your social media, some rules about actual posting, and some time-saving software. So first of all, you can see through this that we have social media, the averages. The blue line is Alberta's average, is the average of across Canada, and the bars are Alberta. So you can see that aside from a couple of outliers, Alberta uses social media less than the average. The outliers, of course, being YouTube, WhatsApp, and LinkedIn. This is because Alberta is a business-oriented province, and most businesses are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and use WhatsApp to communicate with their employees. In Canada, we can see in Facebook, Meta, there's a pretty good average of users, but you can see there's a pretty low sign-up rate of people who are under the age of 18, but the vast majority are between the ages of 35 and 44, but you can see there's still a pretty big amount compared to, for example, Instagram, of people over the age of 55. That makes Facebook unique. It's one of the only social medias that has a larger senior grasp, and that's because Facebook is one of the older social medias. Instagram, on the other hand, we can see a much larger 24 to 34-year-old to 44-year-old range. It's much more for younger people, but it still has that crossover of Meta. So it has a bit of an older audience, but much younger than Facebook. Facebook is still the most used social media in Canada. Many people consider it a news source, even though that news may not be accurate. The overall engagement on Facebook is low, less than 1%. So for example, if you have 100 followers, you may only get 1 like, 1 favorite, 1 comment. Could you give me a glass of water, please? Image posts and videos have the best engagement rate, so you might get between 2 and 5% engagement, whereas links have the worst. It's less than 1%. If you make a post and then say, go here, go do this, you're going to get very few click-throughs. Most people on Facebook only connect via their phone. Very few people use Facebook on their desktops, and it's because it's a social media. People want to see it and post their things while they're going. They want to see what their friends are up to while they're on the road. It's a very what's happening right now. So if your posts are not mobile friendly, if they don't look good on the phone, people won't look at them properly. It's a detriment to your brand if it doesn't look good on mobile. 91% of businesses, according to the latest Hootsuite trend, have a Facebook presence. That's not necessarily because there's a good return on investment. It's because it's the oldest, and it's because many people were on it at the time. And it's kind of become a thing where you should have one, even if it doesn't bring back that return on investment, because everyone's on it. The average post across industry, taking in people that don't post at all and people that post 2 times a day is about 5 posts per week. Now, that depends on the industry. Some people need more, some people need less.
Is that what's too much?
Too much, in my opinion, is more than twice a day. But like I said, it depends on an industry. If you're a funeral home, I would say you shouldn't be posting even once a month, because that's what you would call a controversial industry. People don't usually like to be reminded about death. So it's really dependent on the industry. Instagram, on the other hand, is the third most used social media. It's the global second favorite because it's older, it's more used, but it's still got that youthful appeal. I'll put it that way. 80% of people who use Instagram are also on Facebook. So, but that tells you that 20% of people who are on Instagram do not use Facebook, which is interesting because they share a parent company. Engagement is higher on average than Facebook, and the preferred platform for people between 16 and 34, right? So it's a much younger demographic than Facebook. Carousel posts, or if you've seen them where you have a bunch of images that you scroll through on the same post, that is the highest engagement rate. And if you tag your products, it increases sales by up to 37%. So it's a lot based on images and tags, and we'll talk more about that later. If you wanted to simplify it into the strengths and weaknesses, you could say that Facebook's, it's a bit of a grower. It has a much larger reach. It has a very easy ability to convert because it's more of a business site. You have the Meta Business Suite and all that kind of stuff. People think of it as information, news, and you have like your business card, your business page. Whereas Instagram is much more of a relationship builder. You have a lower growth ability because people tend to find you. They don't tend to grow on Instagram. It's just kind of you and your relationships. The reach is a little bit harder to grow because once you're there, you have your audience. You can kind of grow if you're viral. And the conversion ability is a little bit less because aside from, for example, the Instagram sales and the Instagram marketplace, it's not really a place to sell, it's a place to build relationships. That said, you can sell things on Instagram. It's all about being genuine, consistent, and having the vibes. So quick, technical talk about the algorithm. You can see we have the likes, the favorites, and the comments, the shares, and the whole post here. These are called the reaction, the likes, the loves, the laughs, the angers, the wows. Those are all called reaction. Any reaction higher than a like has a higher value in the algorithm. And that's because it's all about, did they actually think or did they just click like? So that's, did they love it? That's a higher reaction. Did they wow it? That's a higher reaction. Comments are of a higher value to the algorithm than reactions because they actually had to think, they actually had to type something out. That means they cared about it more than just, I was angry at this, or I laughed at this, rather than, oh my God, this was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It showed they actually did care. More than that, shares are of even higher value because it's one thing to comment on a post and say, oh my God, this was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But if I shared it to you and said, oh my God, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, you have to see this, this was life-changing. That tells the algorithm, maybe this is life-changing. Maybe I should share it to everybody else. Maybe I should push this. So that's why that's tiered the way it is. Now, in terms of how Facebook decides how to share things to people, and this is pages, posts, everything. It's all about connections. It's a network-based social media. So if me and you are friends, but you're her friend and I'm not her friend, I'm more likely to be pushed to her because you're a friend of my friend, right? It's the same thing with businesses. If you are a hairstyling business and you're a hotel and I'm a convenience store and we've liked each other, my customers are more likely to see you because you are liked to him and I'm liked to him. So my customers are more likely to be pushed your content because, oh, well, they like each other, must be somewhat related. Okay, but it's important to remember that Facebook and Instagram audiences are different, so they require different strategies. Facebook is more text-based, Instagram is video and image. Hashtags are much more important on Instagram. You must use analytics. Who's interacting on your Facebook? Do you have more men on your Facebook? Do you have more older women? On Instagram, do you have more young ladies? Or do you have maybe more young men? Or do you have, maybe it's backwards. Maybe you have older men on Facebook, on Instagram. Like, you have to figure out who you're interacting with. But if no one's interacting on either, then you need to go back and reevaluate your marketing strategy entirely, because there's a breakdown, and we'll talk about that later. So, first step, who's your target? Who do you actually want to sell to? This is one of my first theories. It's called stoplight theory. Essentially, this is to stop you from wasting your time. So the red lighters part of the community is people that actively dislike you. They don't trust you, they don't trust your business, or they don't trust your product. And they will actively discourage other people from interacting with you or your business or your product. These people are a waste of your time. Don't talk to them. Don't try to convert them. Don't waste your energy or your thought on them, because you will not be able to convert them as a business or as a person, because people don't trust you. Now, green lighters are the complete opposite of them. They're the people who they trust you, they trust your business, they trust your product. They're advocators. They're the ones going out and talking to other people. Hey, I had a great sandwich over there. Go try it, seriously. Those are the green lighters. They are the people who you ask for a testimonial, ask for a review, because they are the people who are willing to do that for free, because they're already doing it. The yellow lighters are the vast majority of people. They're like, try it. I don't really care either way. They are the people you need to be spending your time on, because they can be swung in either direction. The green lighters need to be talking to yellow lighters that they know or red lighters that they know. Not to convert red lighters, because if you have any goal with people that hate you, it's just to get them to shut up. Just stop talking. I don't want you to come here. I don't want you to tell anybody. I just want you to stop harassing and stop saying that my business sucks. Just, if anything, become a yellow. But just be quiet. That is the goal with the red light people. Does that make sense? Perfect. Okay. So, when creating a target audience, it's important to think about, if you have customers already, take surveys, figure out age, gender, interests, religion, concerns. Are they loyal? Are they not loyal? Do they have a reason for choosing your product or service beyond just, it's the closest one? What generation do they belong to? Are they Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Alpha, Gen Z? You have to determine who your target audience is not. That is just as important as who your target audience is, because if you're shotgunning, if you market to everyone, you're marketing to no one. Two really important concepts to remember is the ideal customer versus the necessary audience. And I know that may sound like synonyms. The ideal customer is someone who you want to come into your business. There's the big spender, they're an advocator, you look at them and they're right, and you smile every time they walk in. The necessary audience are people who may not spend any money at all, but without them, your business diminishes a lot or is completely incapable of functioning. And what do I mean by that? Well, consider, for example, a diaper company or a children's toy company. The child is not the one buying the diapers, but can a diaper company function without children? No. So while they are a necessary audience and someone to keep in mind while marketing and while product developing and all this other kind of stuff, the actual customer are their parents, right? But while marketing and developing your everything, it is important to keep them in mind, because without them, your business is incapable of functioning. So the other thing to keep in mind is, are people going to your competitors? If so, why? And these are questions to continually come back to if you need to establish new markets or reposition your opportunities. So the first activity is this sheet. It's called Who is Your Audience? And we're going to answer these basic questions. How old are they? What sex are they? What gender are they? Do they have a family? Do they have high education? Do they have a big income? Do they have a job at all? And are they loyal to the brand? Are they thinking about the brand regularly? What's their problem? And how does your brand solve it? And you can see on the side, I have the traffic cone. And the idea is you want to redo this for multiple audiences because you want to be able to identify your red lighters so you don't waste your time on them. And you want to be able to identify your yellow lighters because that's who you need to spend most of your marketing money on. And you need to be able to identify your green lighters so you know when to ask for testimonials, when to talk to them, when to push for maybe donations, reviews, all that kind of stuff. Each customer has a type, each customer has the opportunity for more growth, and just because they're not spending your money on them doesn't mean that they're not necessary. So the more research done in these few steps, the less work it takes to market. Because, for example, marketing to you, a mom, someone who has, been in the industry a long time, is very different from marketing to him. But if you two are just blank slates and I'm like, oh, this is my audience, should I talk to them like women or should I talk to them like, industry men? I don't know. But you two would react to to the same marketing strategy in two different ways. Maybe you'd be offended by it. Don't talk to me that way. Right? And this is why this research is so important. Okay. On a more generational topic, depending on who you're marketing to, different tactics affect them in different ways. So on the one extreme, we spoke about necessary audiences, you have alphas, Gen Alpha. They don't have any purchasing power, they're children. But most of them own a tablet. So videos and what YouTube Kids, they're at events. So if they have, for example, you go to a kids event, they're going to know how to use a QR scanner. They're going to understand the videos that can interact with them, right? On the other end of the spectrum, you have silent. They're not on social media, but they're going to be willing to buy things for their grandchildren or for their children, right? On the silent end, you have the boomer and the Gen X. These are the people whose ads are all about nostalgia and reliving the old times and freedom in your golden years. Think of Viking River cruises. These are the people who are like, look at the way that I can experience the freedoms of my retirement and the freedoms of, all of these times. Millennials are in the middle. These are authenticity, word of mouth, customer service, and being funny. One of my favorite millennial commercials is a great one called Not Mayo, where it's a riff on a tired old trait. Oh, can you taste the difference between Pepsi and Coke? Of course you can. And if not, you're a paid actor, of course. But this is different because it's people who hate mayo tasting mayo and they're gagging. So of course it's funny. Of course it sticks in your brain. It's millennial humor. Moving forward, you have millennials and Gen Zs. They're tech savvy. They're not brand loyal. If you want to convince them to brand loyal, it takes a lot of effort to make Gen Z green. Because yes, they're trying to save money, but they're very protective of their personal information. So if you're marketing to Gen Z, you are wasting your time pushing loyalty programs. And because Gen Z and millennials are raised with technology, they're on multiple social medias. They trust in influencers. They do not carry cash in wallets. So handing out cash or not having tap, you will lose Gen Z because, speaking from experience, we just walk out. We're like, oh, you don't have tap? Goodbye. I'm never coming back. This is why it's important to do this test, because if you don't know who you're marketing to, you risk wasted energy. Competition, next step. It might be, it's not because it might be because I'm literally losing my voice. But it will be recorded. Next step is competition. So you have to ask, why aren't people buying from you? This is one of my favorite ways of thinking about it. I call them ABC's competitors. Have you ever heard the phrase, don't compare an apple to an orange? It's kind of a riff off that. So the first type of competitor to think about is your Apple competitors. These people are doing the same thing as you in the same way. They have the same target audience. So for you, it might be Remax versus, I'm not sure, but another realtor agency. Same people, same thing, same audience, right? A banana competitor might be someone who's, they're doing a similar business, but they have a different marketing strategy, and it's maybe an entirely different audience. So that might be, for example, in terms of realty, that's like a rental agency. They're solving a similar problem, but it's a different business, and it's solving a different problem, and it's a different target. Realty is more, buying a house is more Gen X or even later millennials. Renter is more Gen Z, different audience. Now, then you have your chocolate competitors. These are people entirely different primary business, really, different marketing strategy, and entirely different target audience. So in terms of realty, that might be your hotels. It's still solving the base problem of lack of accommodation, but it's a very different primary business. But it is important to keep them in mind, because without them, why are people coming to a hotel? Well, they don't live here. So maybe those people that are coming here on vacation could become your audience. So it's worth keeping them in mind in the back burner. Why are they in a hotel instead of renting? Why are they in a hotel instead of living here? Well, okay, maybe some of them are just here for the weekend. Maybe they're visiting family, or maybe they're here for an event. But maybe they come here all the time and they just can't find accommodations. Well, why can't they find accommodations? Well, is it too expensive? Or are they going on Google looking up plumbers and no one's popping up? So they're like, well, there's no point in moving here because there's no plumbers here. And this is the train of thought that brings you to those conclusions. So that's our second activity. It's called research your industry. And you want to do one of these if you want the best result for each of your A's and your B's and your C's, so that you can figure out, what are your A's doing better or worse than you? What are your B's doing better or worse than you? And what are your C's doing better or worse than you? For your U columns, it's a good idea to get a range of opinions, because just your opinion is biased. So for example, let's say on the top row, you have some key performance indicators of what you want to rank against. So for example, if you were selling food, it might be, is it fresh? When was it made? Is it using local ingredients? Things that are objective, not just price, although you could put price, but it should be within this range, right? Because price is something that not everybody cares about. So when you're doing that for yourself, it's a good idea to ask you and at least a couple other people, where do you feel we rank on this factor? So then you can rank yourself, rank your other competitors, and see where you fall in. If you're better, great. If you're worse, why? Because being worse on the scale is not always a bad thing. Are you worse on price? Well, yes, but that's because we use fresh ingredients, we use local product, and we do all of our marketing locally. Whereas independent is not local product. It's not fresh, for example. So then if you're doing that, then you have to consider, okay, so why are we pushing that we're this when we're not pushing quality? We should be pushing quality in our marketing because that's where we shine, for example. So this is why it's really important to follow your competition on social media. It's easier to access their research, see what's working in your industry and what isn't. And remember that Meta's algorithm is based on a network. So if I'm following my competitors, I then have access to the people that are following them. So if, like I said earlier, if a baker follows a grocery store, customers who look them up may be shown and decide to go there instead. But be careful, don't follow more than 5 a day, because Meta's algorithm is very primed to see robots. So if you follow more than 5 a day, Meta might say, nope, that's a bot, and suspend your account. So
You mean selecting 5 to follow in one day, or you
yeah, you don't have to follow 5 in one day.
Yeah,
But if you say you find 50, don't follow 50 in one day. Just pick 5 at random and
Yes.
follow.
yeah, and then the next day you pick 5 more.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying.
yeah. Yeah, take some breaks and post regularly and stuff like that, because if you follow them all, no, that's a robot. That's not a real person. That all making sense so far? Anything was too fast, too crazy?
No.
Okay, perfect. All right. Next one is working backwards. This is thinking about what you can control. So it's all about knowing your goals, but it's really easy to know where you want to be. You want to be seen on Facebook. You want to have high engagement, but it's not as easy to know where you need to start, because, well, should I start here? Should I start here? Should I start here? The plan for get people to see our Facebook is nebulous and multi-layered, and it's just kind of unclear. You don't really know where to start. It's a big blank canvas. And the important thing to remember above anything else, you cannot in any way force people to interact with your social media, even if you use ads. You can force people to see them with ads, but you can't force them to interact with it. So a plan for a post about how we contribute to the community on Tuesdays is very clear, within your control, it's time sensitive, and it has a purpose. Contributing to the community is all about building trust and building growth and showing how you give back. It's not about buy my stuff. So you start at the goal. The goal is what we want and how we're going to get, and then you work backwards to figure out how we're going to get there. So on the activity sheet, what you're going to do is at the back end, you're going to start with something like, for example, increase engagement. And you're going to ask yourself, okay, how do I get that? So then you're going to work backwards. Well, to increase engagement, we need to get people to like or comment on my posts in some way, share them, do something. Okay, so how do we get that? We work backwards. Well, we need to get people to see my posts. Okay, well, how do we do that? Work backwards. We need to post at the same time every week. If we post at the same time every week, people are more likely to see them because they're at the same time. What's important about this is that in between these little lines, we need to think about the break-off points, because now we have the steps. Okay, so between posting at the same time every week and people seeing my posts, it's not working. I'm posting at the same time every week, but my analytics say that people aren't seeing them. So that's a break-off point. Why aren't people seeing them? Well, maybe it's not at the right time every week. Maybe if I'm in farming, I'm posting at 2 p.m. on a Monday. Well, the farmers are out in the field. That doesn't make sense. So I got to change my time. Or maybe I change my time and they're seeing them, but they're not liking and commenting. So why aren't they liking and commenting? Well, maybe they don't like the messaging. Maybe I'm posting to farmers, but I'm posting about caramel lattes. Farmers don't care about that. They care about, oh, this is my cow Megarin. This is what she does, and she has the biggest tongue ever. That's what farmers care about, right? So now they're seeing my posts, now they're liking my posts. So now I've increased engagement. But maybe it's only certain posts. So now, and that's how we look at the break-off points. That makes sense? And you can do this, you don't have to do it 4 steps. It's better actually to make as many steps as you can, because the more minute you get, the easier it is to find break-off points. Okay. Perfect. So now we're going to talk about working efficiently and effectively when you're actually posting. First of all, this is one of my favorite rules. It's the 80-20 rule. We want to shape our audience. We don't want to shout at them. So 80% of your post should be about relationship building, growing trust, and actually being a human being with them. You're not just using them for money. You're trying to be a person with them and your community. Only 20% should be calls to action. This is when you say, come here, do this, click this, go buy now, all that kind of stuff. So this is why you want to be consistent, because then you can plan your calls to action to be more later in the year or more earlier in the year, all that kind of stuff. But if you're posting randomly, you don't know how much you've posted what things. So for example, if you post 5 times per week, 4 weeks in a month, 12 months in a year, that's 240 posts in the year. There's only 48 posts in the whole year can be calls to action. Whereas the other 192 posts should be about you and your audience. You can save up your calls to action and delay, but only if you know what your schedule is. Now, you can manipulate this relationship by about 10%. Some industries need more about 70-30. Some need more like 60-40. Some need 90-10. But the key is you never want to have more calls to action than relationship growth. And the reason for that is because you end up in what's called social media fatigue or call to action fatigue, which is, we've all seen it. You have the restaurant that every day, here's the special, here's the special, here's the special, here's the special. And that's all they see. That's all they post. So you don't care. You just scroll by and then you go in, what's the special today? Because you're not seeing it. It's like going nose blind. Next one, these are actual, when you're posting, you don't want to be posting jargon. So for example, if I was posting on social media, trying to talk to people about, okay, here's how you improve, here's how you connect here's an error code to look out for. When finding a DNS error code, here's how you go into your domain code and blah, blah, blah. Any kind of jargon confuses people, they shut off, right? Simple terms. People's average reading level is at about a grade 8. And it depends on your industry. It depends on your analytics. Maybe your reading level is less. Your industry's reading level is less. The average post is, like I said, 5 times per week. Some need more, some need less. Per sentence, per line, you don't want more than 13 words because otherwise it turns into a wall of nothingness. 1 to 2 lines per post, so that translates into 26 words. You don't want to go more than that, not including hashtags. A great time to post, statistically speaking, is between 8 and noon on Tuesday or Thursday, unless your research shows differently. But on average, between 8 and noon, Tuesday and Thursday, is prime time. When you're thinking about what words to use, what vibes you want to use, some rules to think about is, if you look at it and you're like, it's kind of okay. If you wouldn't click, neither are they going to. It's your industry, it's something you care about. If you wouldn't click on it, if you don't find it interesting, they're not going to care. Attention span is 7 seconds. If you can't hook them in 7 seconds, you're done. Images and videos are more engaging than links. And this is why unless it is very, very important, do not leave the site. And it's for multiple reasons. Most people find it scammy to leave the site. It's like, why are you taking me somewhere? Don't leave the site. And most people, it messes with their flow. You throw off their groove. They're like, oh, I'm leaving, go back. They accidentally click it. They're like, no, I just want to keep scrolling. So it's rarely effective. It takes a very powerful ad a very powerful post to make people want to leave and break their flow. I think I've only done it 20 times since I've been on social media. But a really powerful alternative is involving the audience. Make a poll, ask them to answer a question. We're seeing this on YouTube more and more. What's your favorite pie? Pie flavor. And just get them to interact. People love to answer questions. And YouTube especially has that very powerful in-app poll system. So they don't have to leave, but you still get your data. On Instagram specifically, when you're using hashtags, because I know this is a pretty confusing thing and I get it, you want to use 3 non-changing hashtags. So these ones, no matter what you're posting about, if it's on your business, they don't change. So that might be hashtag realtor, hashtag lac la biche, or hashtag lakeland perhaps, hashtag dream home, or something like that. No matter what you're posting about, they always stay the same. Go ahead.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
I've heard multiple things.
Yeah.
I personally think too many hashtags is just like people trying to scam you and get you to click on something.
Yeah.
So I'm very strategic. I do have some that I continuously use on every single ad that are generic. But then I add ones that, and I keep those specific to different types of things that I'm using so that those things that are connected or similar, when they click on that, if they're absolutely interested in that. But is there too, like, I don't know. I don't like too many.
No, you're absolutely right. For me personally, I think 10 is more than enough. More than enough. You never, ever, ever want more than 30 because then you're getting scammy. It's not scammy, spammy, sorry. Now, these are your 3 standard, and that's to link your brand together, right? So you might use, for example, if you're an Edmonton company, you use like YEG or lac la biche or whatever. But then after that, you use context-specific hashtags. So for you, it might be like showing or dream house, or well, if you're presenting in the community, it might be community engagement or Portage College, right? It's what are you actually seeing? Plus, this is who I am. And that allows you to bring things together and people to find the actual post. Now, if you need more beyond that, no more than an extra 10 or 20, because then that's 30 altogether, right? And stories and reels added on the Instagram is good because then you get your videos on there and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of hashtags, 3 standard, 10 context is usually more than enough. If you get beyond there, you need like 1 or 2 more. It's fine, but what I've found is if you can't be succinct in 10 to 15 context hashtags, you're probably not finding the right word.
So one other question to that, because from my previous stuff, working with your tags when we used to do other things in the systems. Google used to, the more tags that you would put in, the better, because it would, but now Google and all those things are getting smarter. So if you put too many, they're putting you on a lower priority because they think, oh, you're just trying to get anybody. So is that going to happen? Because this is constantly changing, right? So is that a possibility of happening as well with hashtags?
I'll show you guys a trick. Actually, I forget where I put it in, but when we get into time-saving software, there's a really good website that allows you to pick the most effective hashtags for the context, right? So then the idea is, for Instagram, let's say this one has 1 billion views. You don't want to pick the one with 500,000 views just because it's more accurate. You want to pick the one that's more constant, right? Because you want to be seen more. That said, if it's not actually accurate, like for example, the picture behind you is a lake with a dog, right? Let's say the more accurate, the more viewed one is lakeside living. Well, that's not really accurate, right? Even though it might have 1 billion more views, it's not really accurate, right? So you want to be, it's a balancing act of you want to be accurate while being the most popular. Now, and the reason why that's important to what you said is because if you're spamming the most accurate one, the most viewed ones, and Google and Metas will go through and say, oh, that's not what you're actually showing. That's when you get dinged. But if it's lakeside living is kind of accurate, so it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. We'll leave it on there, right? That one is more lakeside living, right? So that's kind of where it falls in.
I thought when you click on hashtags or whatever, can you not click on them and they go somewhere there? That's
Yeah.
like, who owns that hashtag or whatever?
So the way that hashtags work in Instagram is they become a trend, right? So for example, something that you can do is you could create a hashtag for an event. For example, Convocation 2024, PC Convocation 2024. And then you can make a banner and say, Convocates, take a picture here and hashtag us on Instagram. And then it allows things to be linked together. So if you click on that hashtag, let's say it never existed before. It probably did, but let's say it didn't. Then all the photos that have been hashtagged that come together in a group, right? So that's the purpose of having those 3 constant hashtags. So then all of your company photos come together.
Okay, and so does that work similar then if you're putting your hashtags in your Facebook page?
Yes, but because Facebook because they use the same parent company, Meta, right? But because Facebook is not a hashtag space, I would recommend much less. Use your 3 standard and maybe 1 or 2 context, like much less.
Okay, so more hashtags in Instagram.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good to know.
Okay. Next step. This one might be a little bit confusing, so feel free to ask your questions. This is about memes. This is more for millennial and Gen Z marketing. But the idea is you have a meme and you want to be funny. Great. You want to keep the tone of the meme the same. You want to use simple words, short phrases, no more than the actual meme has. You want to talk about your values as a business, as a person, as, the industry, the stereotypes of the industry. And it's important that the customer is always the winner. They're always the smart one. And to never, ever, ever, ever use memes as a call to action. They're meant to poke fun at society, at business, at sometimes even the suffering of people. So to use them as a call to action feels very scummy. So something you might say is trying to choose between buying a $500,000 house or a $5,000 house or renting for $200,000 a year, something like that. And then you're just dying, right? Or, for example, talking to a wall, trying to tell my mom that I can't afford to rent right now, right? So because it's poking fun at the industry, the customer is the winner, and it's like, oh yeah, the housing industry sucks right now. But it depends. If you're marketing to Gen Z, this will work. If you're marketing to people older than millennials, then it's not going to work because they won't get the meme. They won't find it funny. They'll just be like, oh, funny picture. I guess they'll put on their glasses like, okay, right? Reels, essentially, if you've seen TikTok, this is Instagram's version of TikTok. The kind of stuff you want to show on here would be behind the scenes content. You want to introduce yourself, your story. It's all about relationship building, again, just in a different context. So you want to do your befores, your afters, time lapses, sneak peeks of what's to come. So for example, for realty, you might do like a whoosh of a house and be like, full walkthrough tomorrow, right? 10 to 15 hashtags, same as a thing. And you want to post them to your feed, not just to your real storyline, because people tend to like, oh, here's our feed and just scroll. We call it doom scrolling. But if it's only in your stories, then it's gone forever.
So question to
Yeah.
that, sorry, I don't mean to ask you.
No, of course.
So would a good one for this also be like somebody putting up their signage for a thing and watch for this one to come instead of just posting an image, but actually have a video of somebody,
Yeah, or like the sold as well, right? So like it really does depend on your industry. So for example, one of my favorites, and of course I can't because I opened it on this computer. I can open it if we have time after. What time is it? It's 1 o'clock, so we don't have time to open it right now. But one of my favorites was a Gen Z marketed realty one. And basically the person did the walkthrough, they recorded it, and the Gen Z marketing manager cut it so it was only inhales and ums. It went viral. Everyone knows about that
Because it was funny.
because it was funny.
And nobody knew what they were, you
But-
had to guess what they were talking.
Exactly. And everyone knows what they were going to say, but it was just gestured at the light. What? But that's the purpose of knowing the difference between who you're marketing to, because while boomers and Gen X prefer straightforward, what are you trying to tell me? Tell me. Gen Z and millennials like funny because we know what you're trying to say.
They
We
want to be entertained.
want to be entertained. Exactly. So it depends on, that's why you have to know who you're marketing to, because a boomer campaign will not work for a Gen Z. So some actual video tips. When you're recording, if you're recording to audio, like to a trendy music, make sure you're synced, your lips and the audio are synced. If you use trendy audio, there is an icon in the music with it's a little arrow pointing to the up and to the right. That shows you that the music is trending. Obviously, you don't want to use controversial music. You want to be genuine. So don't be fake. I don't know how else to put that other than don't do something that makes you seem unrealistic for the industry or unrealistic for yourself. When you're making the video, especially on Reels, less text in the actual video is better. Put that in the caption. You want to have transitions and movement. If you just record like this, and you just talk, unless that's the trend, it can get boring really quickly. Engagement, ask questions in the captions or have it be a ask me anything. And when you're asking for people to join you, you don't want to ask like, subscribe, and follow just one. Like, you want to subscribe, follow, you want to share, just one. And the reason for that is because people, if you ask, it's kind of like first aid logic. Somebody call 911. No, you call 911. Just ask. And this and it also kind of connects to Gen Z does not like to become loyal to brands. We don't like the whole brand loyalty clubs. So being asked to connect and asked to be doing all these things on top of that, you're already asking a lot. So asking 4 things, it's a big request. Asking 1 thing, not a big ask or a lesser of an ask. So here's the time-saving tools. This is the second last section. Okay, first one, this is a really, really, really big one. So Canva is one of my favorite tools. It's for posts, graphics creation, videos, social media posts, basically almost anything you can imagine. Canva will allow you to create it for pretty cheap. There's the free option and a paid option. It allows you to use AI to create options from text, to create things from text. You can create QR codes. You can multi-create tickets, batch create. So you make one and you write text. Here's the number. You can create up to 100 tickets at a time, and all that's changed is the number. You can export to various file types. You can import your own graphics and then click a button so that everything looks like your brand. And you can use free graphics like sounds and videos and make layered content. And so you can make a very interesting post within a couple of minutes using Canva.
Now, are those Canva, is that for either Instagram or?
You can make TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook,
Okay,
posters, basically anything.
cool.
Can you tell what your competition's using? If it out of those, like if they're using Canva, is it a way to see?
No, because Canva because it's all royalty free, they do not have to use watermarks, which allows you to create essentially whatever you want.
And businesses can use that. It's not like, I know with some of the copyright,
Yeah,
personal people can use it, but businesses have to pay for it. So is there a,
well, anyone can use it at all because it's all royalty free, right? I would recommend if you're a business, you're welcome to try it out for free. The difference in terms of ability to use is about 10 times. So for example, the free version is 1 million free assets, and the paid version is 100 million free assets. And also the AI is locked behind a paywall. So it's an incredible tool. It's probably one of the biggest time savers you'll find.
What's the cost of it roughly? Based it on your, how much you're using it or?
No, it's just one thing, and it's $7.99 a month. It's roughly $150 a year. At least that was the last time I bought it. I used the company one, so the last time I looked at it was about $150 a year. So for example, these two images were both made on Canva. This is A/B split testing. So you can do this manually. Facebook does have an option for you to build one and it to automatically do it, but you can just do it yourself and just record the data. The idea behind this is you post two within a couple of days of each other, if you're doing it yourself, very similar posts with very similar content. And the idea behind it is you figure out what is more responsive. So for example, with option A, you could see the special offer, the 50% off is really small. It's really big pictures. The date is a little bit lighter. It's just about, come in. We got something special for you. Whereas B is Valentine's Day sale, 50% off. Here's the dates, come in. It's a little bit more bombastic, right? So which one is more effective? Which one had more clicks? Which one had more responses? To figure out what does your audience respond to and who responded to it. Maybe women like the first one, but maybe men like the second one, because men looking for their wives' gifts, maybe they like the second one, right?
they also like the 50% off.
Exactly. That's the thing, right? But maybe women, they don't care about the 50% off. They just like the vibes, right? So the reason why this is important is because knowing who you're marketing to and who your audience is, women stereotypically will make these purchases 70% of the time. Whereas men will make other purchases, like, for example, lawnmowers or other bigger purchases. But for some household purchases, for example, this happened in my family a lot. My dad will be looking at a barbecue and the salesperson will come up to him and he'll say, "Oh no, sorry, I can't, I'm just looking, but I can't buy without the wife." Because even though it's a stereotypically male product and my dad is the one using it, he's not allowed to make that decision without my mom. So knowing these decisions and knowing the stereotypes, and knowing who's making what decision, who's making the buy, and who your audience is will allow you to make more effective posts. This is one of the ones that will save you a lot of time. First one is called Answer the Public. This is what they want to know. Who's asking what questions, who's asking, and what do they actually care about? Whereas Google Trends will tell you when they want to know it. So for example, different topics are relevant at different times. So for example, Valentine's Day is only relevant as a search topic from February 1st until February 13th. After that, it's completely irrelevant. So if you post about it before February 1st, you're wasting your time because no one's searching for it. Whereas chocolates, flowers, mom or wife gifts, like all of those are more relevant for posts because in Answer the Public, men are searching gifts for my wife. But they're not searching Valentine's gifts until February 1st to February 13th. So when you're posting about your wanting to promote, what you put in your post is relevant. And when you post it is relevant. This is the website I was talking about. It's called Best Hashtag. So for example, if you look up Valentine's Day, these are the top most relevant hashtags. So you might use one or two. Valentine's Day, love. And then you might search up a different topic, chocolates, or wife, or significant other, and pick up 2 from each, or 1 from each. So then you get the most popular from each of those topics.
Hey, and I'm asking this because I'm not very versed on it, but when you click on it, like you were saying before, you sometimes don't want the one with most, because if you click on something and you put like Valentine's Day, you're gonna get a billion posts.
Yes.
So then, doesn't that discourage people from looking through all of that?
Yes, and this is why you put your 3 recurring ones first.
Oh,
Yeah, because those are the ones that are the most important. Those are the ones that connect you to your brand. But when people are searching up gifts for my wife, you're connected to that algorithm.
see, and I did it the other way, which is interesting.
So, last one, and this is probably something that's concerning for a lot of people. AI, specifically things like ChatGPT, Quillbot, and those kind of things, the writing ones. Should you use it? Yes and no. It's important to consider them as tools and not replacements. People can figure out things are AI pretty quickly, and especially if you only use AI. So the tools can be used for ideas, for paraphrasing, or if you need like an alternative, like I like the way it sounds, but it's just kind of it's not punchy enough, or it just sounds awkward. I don't like the phrasing or whatever. So for example, in order, I asked ChatGPT, give me a 15-word Facebook post about a marketing for Gen Z, and then millennial, and then Gen X, and then boomer. But you can tell they're all AI because no one uses emojis like that. No human uses emojis like that. And also,
Okay, I have used emojis sometimes.
but regularly, Weekend Brunch was a hit, those 2 emojis. Like it's not a very natural one. We use the smiley face, or we use the party one.
Right.
Like we don't use the rocket one or the house one, right? It's one of those things, right? So especially Gen Z. Not really. So the way that we talk and the way that it looks, and it also the way that things correspond. So for example, Gen X, it's all about our music and nostalgia and the good old days, right? Whereas millennial is like, ooh, the brunch, we can survive, we're okay, we're dying, but we're okay. And boomer is like, oh, we just worked in our little house in our garden because we got land. And then Gen Z is like, we got the vibes, bro. We're good. So the way that they talk and the way that they need to be marketed to is very different. Just dropped something. Check out the vibes, bro. Versus just finished a beautiful garden makeover. It's a very different way of speaking, and knowing that how to speak requires that kind of research. So now, we don't really have time for it because it's after we ran 15 minutes late, so we ran an extra 15 minutes. But I'm gonna now stop the recording, so people can ask their questions about their specific business. Before I stop my recording, at the end of this thing we're going to send out is a link to the business boot camp. Community Futures is going to run a business boot camp to help people with doing entrepreneurial stuff, digital marketing, and we kind of are trying to gather what people want to run for it. So if you're interested in it, scan the link or click the link. And there's also a survey for this webinar as well. So with that said, this is all done. You're free to stay behind if you have time and ask questions, but otherwise that's it for today. I'm going to stop the recording now.